Jordon was born June 24th, 1986. He was a good little kid. He was always quiet. Didn't cry much, never really fussed much.
Jordon was very quiet and shy as a little one. He would walk around and just kind of look at everything. He didn't say much for a long time.
He was quiet. He was unusual in that way. He was so focused on detail, like with his farm set up. He had an extensive collection of tractors, and he would set up these elaborate farms. And it was incredibly important to him that he knew exactly what crop was going in, exactly which tractor for which space. He would sit there and make the tractor noises at the exact correct RPMs. He would move the tractors at the exact right speed to plow all these fields. He would spend hours just plowing fictional farms.
He was probably 5 years old when he started really talking more. We grew up on it was a farm. It was a pretty big farm that these farmers let us live on, so as long as my dad would keep the house in repair. We had a very carefree life in a lot of ways. My parents worked. My dad had a mowing company, an upholstery company, and then he played in multiple bands. And then my mom worked at the hospital where she was a receptionist.
Rosie is the mom. Jaret as the son. Jordon as the son number 2.
We're so glad you joined us for the Christmas of 1989.
After that, the Ellis household was very unique because it was always music, like loud music. The house is shaking, like all the time.
My parents would have crazy jam sessions. Well, my dad mostly, but in our house, my bedroom was the jam room. So I would go to sleep at night with like crazy funk music playing sometimes. And a lot of times Jordon would stay up and he'd watch them with me. And it's just mostly observation.
Rosemary never seemed to shy away from a party, whether it was a Halloween party or birthday party.
Happy birthday, he's fine. Happy birthday, dear Jordon. Happy birthday to you.
And I always put on big puppet shows.
Hi there. Hi, I'm Corny Corn. I'm here to tell some real corny jokes.
What did the farmer get when his wife ran off with a tractor salesman?
I don't know. What did he get?
A John Deere.
Creativity was heavily encouraged. Art was heavily encouraged, and of course music's a part of that. Their mom, Rosie, was just a music lover, so she was always happy that this was going on, And of course, Jordon had instruments put in front of him at a very young age. I remember Bela Fleck and the Flecktones were like their favorite band as a family. I don't know, I think they went and saw him like 20 times or something.
Yeah, Jordon was influenced by the Flecktones. When we went to a concert the first time, we were sitting in the front row. And Victor saw Jordon and just tuned into Jordon and played to Jordon about the whole time. And Jordon was mesmerized. He had bought him a little bass that fit Jordon.
And then at some point, he started watching Paul Simon. It was the Graceland concert and then the concert in the park. And Jordon would sit there and watch it every day and like hit the bass and try to figure out the rhythms and stuff.
These are the days of miracle and wonder. This is the longest.
He didn't play the notes right, but he was rhythmically right on the money.
The way we look to a song. The way we look to a distant constellation that's died in a corner of the sky. These are the days of miracles and wonder. So don't cry, baby, don't cry.
I want to say he was like 8 or 10 or something when he started drumming. It wasn't just that he drummed, it was a whole change in people's perception of him and his perception of himself. Like, he went from not getting attention to getting all the attention. And when he drummed, it was a madhouse.
him and my dad would play drums and bass together. And they did this talent show at Bondurant Middle School. And it was the moment that all the kids realized that Jordon wasn't just this quiet little guy. And they were playing this like funk fusion song. He's probably 7th grade, I would imagine. And then he goes into this drum solo. Going nuts, and then he starts this double bass pedal. And the kids are like screaming like the Beatles came to town, you know.
Before that, he was always quiet. But when they realized he could play drums like that, they freaked out.
I can literally remember my good friend at the time turning to me and saying, "That's the drummer kid now." Like I'm out. So my thought process was, well, then we're starting a band.
Hell yeah!
Him and Kelly May started this project called Seraphim, and it was a rock trio with their best buddy Gary Thompson. Maybe a year later, I auditioned and made it as a singer in the band. That's when I really started playing music with Jordon on the more for real level. It was later.
It's been so long since you said it's been so long.
All the summers, all the extra time that we had was spent recording, and that was, you know, seeing Jordon's genius kind of come to light at a very young age, not only as the percussionist, as a recording engineer, a producer, and he was so good at pushing people to not give up on their ideas, because that's who he was, and that's how he was with everybody. And his mother, same way. You know, Rosie was the exact same way.
So the hard part for him was that he graduated high school and then our mother passed away from cancer. And him and Mom were the closest to each other. So it was a huge, huge blow to him.
Oh, Rosemary, she was a great person. Jordon never seemed to deal with that very good.
I'm aware that it was a very deep impact, but at the same time, it's hard to know because Jordon is very private. So you never get a total bead on what he's feeling and what he's going through.
He was enrolled to go to EKU, actually, at that point. He had a full ride offered to him at U of L to play jazz. The drummer instructor was like, dude, you're great, but we got to change your technique to, like, you know, be the jazz guy. And Jordon was like, I want to play all kinds of music. I don't want to just play jazz. I'm not going to change my technique. I'm not going to take this full ride. So he went a semester at EKU, and he did not like it at all. And he enrolled at SAE in Nashville.
When I was like 13 or 14, Jordon was a teacher or a student at that time at the audio engineering school. He recorded my first album, and I thought it was like the most amazing thing that Jaret Ellis would record my album in Nashville. Being that young and being in a recording studio that size for the first time, he was just so encouraging and patient. Like when I didn't have confidence in what I was doing or in myself, he did.
He was down there at least a year, I want to say, maybe 2 years.
Then he moved back to Kentucky briefly. He lived with his dad for a little bit, and about that time we had moved to Austin. There wasn't much happening for him in Kentucky at the time. And And so Jaret and I urged him to come and join us in Austin, and eventually he did. He was in Austin for roughly a year, but eventually, Frankfurt, what was happening in Frankfurt started luring him back, especially at the Coffee Tree. And he was very close to Walt Baldwin, and Mary. And then the opportunity to play with you, that was the real deciding factor.
Jordon and I actually met back in all-state jazz band in high school. Over the years, just being musicians in Kentucky, we would run into each other at different jam sessions and people's houses, open mics and stuff like that. So Jordon and I started making music together, I think in 2009. I had jammed with him at the Kentucky Coffee Tree. Of course, it was just magical, sparks everywhere. And after that tour, I called him up for a show that I had in Knoxville at the Botanical Gardens. And from then on, we started touring all the time. Jordon and I have played hundreds of shows together, all over the world, everywhere from Bangalore, India to Edmonton, Canada. We did music tours by plane, train, automobile. We even did some music tours by bicycle. We called them Ditch the Van tours. And Jordon would put his drums on a trailer behind him, and we would ride from show to show. Jordon and I logged a lot of miles together. Beyond being a fantastic collaborator on stage, Jordon was always up for driving. More often than not, he was the one who drove us home after the gigs. Jordon was funny. He had this strange wit and awkward sense of timing, especially whenever a camera came out.
The only product I fully endorse while on the Ben Sollee musical bike tour, Earth Balls. They're balls from the earth.
Jordon was a foodie. He was our breakfast maestro. So every morning we'd get up and say, "What are we having for breakfast, maestro?" And he would have something pulled up on Yelp or Google, and he never failed, never missed. It was always a great breakfast. Jordon was a mechanic, so when things went wrong with the tour van or the tour car, he was right there to help fix things.
Will we see you tonight?
In 2013, when Edison was born, Jordon and I were doing a lot of touring. We really connected over both being young fathers.
He was scared about being a father. He didn't know if he had it in him, He definitely was excited to see Edison grow. I saw many times his eyes light up when Edison would say things or do things, run around, climbing things, When Jordon had his studio down at Plain Graphics, Edison would come down there and Jordon would show him all the instruments and sit him on the drums and bang on drums with them together.
He loved Edison very much, and he was proud to be a dad. I think being a dad was hard for him. He's not a father like his father, he's a father like his mother, which his mom's approach was to be very kind, very supportive, very loving, and that's what I always saw from him with Edison was in the moments when they were together and spending time that he was very, very focused on Edison and he thought it was very important to be kind and supportive.
When I moved back to Central Kentucky, I had an opportunity to start a music education program in partnership with a community center here in Frankfurt, the King Center. Part of the intention of the program was having adult mentors who were practicing artists and who were interested in an approach to being with young people in a way that was trauma-informed and had space for safe risk-taking through music making. Jordon was one of the first people that came to mind when I thought about who may be interested in being a teaching artist for this program. I don't know if he knew completely what he was getting into, but Jordon brought this calm, focused energy. It was only hands-on when he needed to be. He really let the student lead, and then he would kind of hear what they were into, beat making wise, and say, hey, did you know we could do this too?
Check it out. Check it out. I remember feeling over the years playing with Jordon that he was like a Jedi. Where did he come from? How did he make these sounds? At times I would feel like I was playing so well as a part of Stir Fry out at a show or a festival. But I realized it was Jordon behind me who was literally lifting me up. He was so generous with his music and with his time. He would play anytime and anywhere that I asked, and we always had such a great time.
He was just one of the most intuitive, creative musicians I've ever worked with. Music was his voice. When he wasn't able to play music or create music with people through recording, he felt mute. He felt like he couldn't communicate. And God, I'd give anything to play another show with Jordon. I'd give anything to sit down with him without a set list and just start playing and see what happens.
How would you describe your style on the drum kit?
I think I've always tried to play in as many musical situations as I can. The main thing is I always try to adapt as a drummer and try to fit the musical situation that's at hand, while at the same time keeping a really open mind. I'm not afraid to experiment if that's what's needed. So I never try to sound too different or too new or too weird. I try to keep an open mind and at the same time do what's right for the music.
It was amazing to see how he could be so calm. But then he gets on the drums and he's just like, wow, so much energy and fury just going. And it's amazing. Like, I've been his biggest fan my whole life and his whole life. I miss him.
It's the most obvious. There we go. Yeah.
That is the worst looking sticker I've ever seen, dude.
Awesome.